There is a mirror in every one of us, not the one hanging in your bathroom, not the polished glass in your hallway that tells you whether your shirt fits or your makeup is even. No, the mirror I'm talking about doesn't show your face. It shows your fears. It shows your wounds. It shows your story. And most of us, we spend our entire lives avoiding it. We cover it with noise, with busyness, with scrolling and swiping and chasing things that don't matter. Because deep down, if we looked long enough, we might see something we're not ready to admit, that we've forgotten how to love ourselves, not in the social media quote kind of way, not in the treat yourself kind of way, but in the real, raw, sacred way, in the way that speaks with compassion to the parts of us that are cracked and calloused, in the way that embraces the mess, the shame, the stumbles, and calls it beautiful anyway. But here's the truth that no one told you growing up. You weren't born hating yourself. You didn't come into this world doubting your worth. As a baby, you didn't look in the mirror and say, my legs are too short. My laugh is annoying. My dreams are impossible. No. You came into this world curious, bold, brilliant. You danced before you knew how to walk. You smiled without needing a reason. You asked for love without apology. And somewhere along the way, something taught you to shrink, taught you that being you wasn't enough. That love had to be earned. That your worth was measured in productivity, popularity, performance. And slowly, like fog creeping in at dawn, you started believing the lies. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not successful enough. I'm not lovable. You didn't ask for this narrative, but you accepted it. And now, years later, you look in the mirror and struggle to see the person beneath the performance. Let me tell you a secret, the same one I wish someone had whispered to me years ago. Loving yourself is not the destination. It's the journey home. It's the process of unlearning everything the world taught you to believe about who you had to be. It's not a hashtag. It's not a spa day. It's not a motivational quote on your phone wallpaper. It's a revolution. A quiet, relentless, soul-deep revolution that begins the moment you decide, I am worthy even when I don't feel like it. You see, most people think self-love is a luxury. It's not. It's a survival skill. Because when life hits, and it will, when you lose the job, when the relationship crumbles, when no one texts you back, when the dream falls apart, what will keep you breathing isn't applause. It's not how many people like your photos. It's not how many trophies you've collected. It's how deeply you know that your value was never based on any of that to begin with. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat with yourself in silence, not to judge, not to fix, not to plan your next move, but simply to listen? We spend so much of our lives speaking to ourselves, you're lazy, you're behind, you're a failure, you're not enough. But we rarely listen to ourselves. We rarely ask that scared, tired, aching voice inside, what do you need right now? What are you trying to tell me? I once heard a story of a little girl who planted a sunflower seed in her backyard. Every day, she watered it. She talked to it. She sang to it. Not because it had bloomed yet, but because she believed it would. She understood something most adults forget. Growth doesn't happen when you criticize the seed. Growth happens when you nurture it. You are that seed. And if you want to bloom, you need to water yourself with love, not shame, with grace, not guilt, with patience, not pressure. You cannot bully yourself into becoming who you were meant to be. So this is where we begin. Not with perfection, not with answers, not with a 5-step formula, but with one sacred, courageous decision to come home, to strip away the labels, to walk through the ruins, to meet the wounded, brilliant, breathtaking soul underneath it all and say, I see you, I accept you, I'm not leaving you behind anymore. Because the journey back to self isn't about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you've always been. And I know it's hard. It's hard to face the mirror when all you've known is judgment. It's hard to trust your reflection when you've only been taught to criticize it. It's hard to believe in your own light when the world profits from your insecurity. But you are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not the sum of your regrets. You are possibility. You are becoming. You are a living, breathing miracle in motion. No one wakes up in the morning and says, today, I'm going to carry my pain like a badge. No one plans to build emotional armor so thick that nothing, not even love, can get in. But life has a way of forcing our hands. You were told to toughen up, to stop being so sensitive, to grow thicker skin. So you did. Little by little, layer by layer, you started to build walls where bridges were meant to be. And maybe it started small, a betrayal, a breakup, a parent who withheld affection, a teacher who mocked your dreams, a friend who turned their back when you needed them most. At first, you just wanted to protect yourself. You told yourself, I'll never let that happen again. And that made sense. You were trying to survive, but what started as a defense became your default. What was once a shield became your identity. Now, when someone gets too close, you push them away. When you hear a compliment, you don't believe it. When life gets quiet, you distract yourself. You've gotten so good at pretending everything's fine that even you can't tell when you're hurting. You tell people, I'm just independent, but inside, you're starving for connection, starving for permission to take off the mask. You've mistaken being strong for never needing help. You've confused moving on with burying the pain, and you've learned how to keep walking even when your soul is limping. But here's the truth that no one claps for. Healing is not loud. It's not glamorous. It doesn't look like winning. It looks like crying at 2 a.m. It looks like admitting you're not okay. It looks like sitting with the ache you've tried to outrun for years. And it takes more strength to feel your pain than to numb it. It takes more courage to be vulnerable than to be invincible. The world taught you to wear armor, but no one taught you how to take it off. That's where we begin today. You see, every wound tells a story, not because pain defines you, but because it shaped you. And unless you listen to the story, it will run your life without your permission. That's why people sabotage love. That's why people quit right before their breakthrough. That's why they chase success, but still feel empty when they get it. Because they haven't met the wounded version of themselves, still hiding beneath the surface, whispering, please don't forget me. Have you ever wondered why certain songs make you cry? Why certain words sting more than they should? Why certain situations make your heart race even when there's no danger? It's not just trauma, it's memory. Your body remembers, your heart remembers. And most of all, your inner child remembers. The part of you that never stopped hoping, the part of you that wanted nothing more than to feel seen, safe, loved. But here's the problem. When no one gives that love to you, you start believing you don't deserve it. You become the parent to yourself that you never asked for, the one who withholds approval, who sets impossible standards, who says, you're not enough yet. And this is where the journey back to self gets real. You don't just have to forgive others. You have to forgive yourself for the ways you abandoned your heart in the name of survival. You have to look at the mirror and say, I'm sorry for the years I spent hating you. I'm sorry I believed them when they said you were unworthy. I'm sorry I made you earn love instead of just giving it. Because healing isn't about forgetting the pain. It's about holding it without letting it hold you. Do you know what's on the other side of that? Freedom. Freedom to laugh without guilt. Freedom to cry without shame. Freedom to love without fear. Because when you stop pretending you're not broken, you realize something incredible. You were never broken to begin with. You were just bruised, just weary, just human. Let me tell you something, no one else will. You don't have to wait for permission to be kind to yourself. You don't have to accomplish anything to be worthy. You don't need to prove anything to start healing. You just have to start showing up for yourself, like you would for someone you love. Imagine if you talk to yourself the way you talk to your best friend. Imagine if you celebrated your progress instead of punishing your pace. Imagine if you gave yourself the grace you hand out so freely to others. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. It takes wisdom to know that the only way forward is inward, to stop chasing validation and start building truth, to look your wounds in the eye and say, you don't own me anymore, to peel off the armor and let the world see not your perfection, but your presence, your realness, your soul, because the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more honest ones. It needs more people who are brave enough to say, I'm still figuring it out, but I won't abandon myself this time. So today, choose softness over shame. Choose curiosity over criticism. Choose presence over performance. Because when you take off the armor, you don't become weaker. You become whole. And that is the beginning of love. Real love. The kind that starts from within and spills outward. The kind that doesn't need permission. The kind that can't be taken away. The kind that says, I am worthy. Always, there's a moment, and it comes for everyone. When the distractions fade, the noise quiets, the mask cracks, and you're left with nothing but you, no filters, no roles, no performance, just the raw, unedited truth of who you are and how you've learned to see yourself. That moment is terrifying for some, because for years you've been defined by who you were to others: the good child, the hard worker, the achiever, the fixer, the entertainer, the strong one. You've worn every identity like it was your only currency. And somewhere in the midst of proving your worth, you forgot to ask, who am I without the applause? You see, most people don't fear failure. They fear exposure. They fear what will happen when the facade is stripped away and the world sees the version of them that they've avoided. But the truth, you cannot truly love yourself until you're willing to face yourself completely, without flinching, without turning away, because the mirror doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't sugarcoat. It reflects not just your face, but your fears, your choices, your patterns, your pain, and most of all, your potential. When you look into that mirror, you don't just see the lines on your face or the tired in your eyes. You see the years behind those lines. You see the nights you cried in silence, the days you kept going when no one noticed, the battles you fought behind smiles. And in that reflection, you realize something powerful. You have survived 100% of your worst days. You have already proven your strength. You are not here by accident. You are here on purpose. But for so long, you've lived on autopilot, telling yourself you'd love yourself later when you lost the weight, when you got the promotion, when you were in a relationship, when you fixed everything. But that later is a lie. It's a mirage designed by your ego to keep you in waiting rooms. Instead of living rooms, the ego says, earn your worth. The soul says, you were worthy the moment you were born. And here's the secret. Most people never learn. You don't become whole by adding more. You become whole by remembering more who you were before the world told you who to be. That's why the mirror is sacred. Because when you finally see yourself clearly, you stop trying to be someone else. You stop comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You stop dimming your light just to make others comfortable. You start to recognize the divinity that's been living quietly inside you all along. But here's the thing. The mirror won't always show you what you want to see. It shows you what you need to see. You'll see the self-sabotage, the moments you settled, the times you stayed silent when your soul was screaming. You'll see the version of you who broke your own heart just to keep the peace. And that's okay. Because seeing it is how you heal it. Awareness is the beginning of liberation. You cannot change what you will not confront. And the good news is, you are not your mistakes. You are not your regrets. You are not the worst thing you've done. You are the wisdom those things created. You are the lessons those moments gave birth to. So the next time you look into the mirror, don't look for flaws. Look for truth. Look for the child who just wanted love. Look for the dreamer who still believes in more. Look for the warrior who hasn't given up, not even now. And instead of saying, what's wrong with me? Try asking, what do I need today? Because that question, that one shift can change everything. It moves you from judgment to compassion, from shame to understanding, from punishment to healing. Self-love isn't an Instagram quote. It's not a spa day or a vacation or a hashtag. It's waking up and choosing to be gentle with your mind, to be patient with your growth, to speak to yourself with reverence, like someone worth listening to, because it's choosing not to abandon yourself. In moments of insecurity, it's staying present. Even when the critic in your head is screaming, it's realizing your relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. If you don't believe you're lovable, you'll push love away. If you don't think you're worthy, you'll attract people who confirm it. If you don't treat yourself with respect, you'll tolerate disrespect and call it normal. But when you rise in self-love, the whole world around you shifts, not because they changed, but because you did. And here's the final truth for today. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are not too much. You are becoming right now, in this moment, with every breath, you are remembering who you are, and who you are has always been enough. There's a voice that whispers every time you try to move forward. It doesn't yell. It doesn't shout. It just quietly reminds you, you failed before. You've been hurt before. You always mess things up. It speaks with the tone of familiarity, like it knows you, like it's trying to protect you. But that voice isn't truth. It's memory. Wounds disguised as wisdom. Pain pretending to be logic. It's the ghost of your past trying to write your future in ink that's already dry. But here's the reality. You are not your past. You are the author of your present. You are the architect of your future. And the story you've been telling yourself, that quiet, defeated narrative, that's not who you are. That's who you learned to be. Somewhere along the way, you picked up beliefs that didn't belong to you. You internalized rejection as identity. You mistook abandonment for worthlessness. You believed the lies that life whispered in its darkest hours. And the tragedy is not that you experienced pain. The tragedy is that you believed the pain meant you were less. But pain is not proof of failure. It's proof you were growing, that you were alive, that you were brave enough to try the heartbreak. It meant you loved. The loss, it meant you cared. The mistake, it meant you took a chance. You see, your past only has the power you choose to give it. Because while the past may shape you, it does not define you. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what did this create in me? Because suddenly you realize you didn't just survive, you transformed, you built empathy from betrayal, you found courage through chaos, you grew wisdom in the wilderness. And that wisdom, that quiet, earned knowing is the foundation of self-love. Think about this. If someone you loved made a mistake 5 years ago, would you hold it over them every single day? Would you remind them of it every morning? Would you limit their life based on that single moment? No. You'd forgive. You'd show compassion. You'd offer grace. So why are you so unwilling to give that same grace to yourself? Why do you speak to yourself in a tone you'd never use on a friend? Why do you cling to guilt? As if punishing yourself could heal the past. You don't heal by hating the version of you who was hurting. You heal by understanding them, by holding space for who you were without judgment, without shame. Because that version of you, the one who messed up, the one who was lost, the one who didn't know better, they were doing their best with the tools they had at the time, and you've grown. You have better tools now. You have deeper awareness. You have stronger boundaries. You have more clarity. You're not that same person. And it's time to stop living as if you are. We often think self-love is about affirmations, about routines, about doing more. But at its core, self-love is about truth. It's about confronting the lies you've believed and replacing them with something real, not just I am worthy, but why you are, not just I forgive myself, but understanding what you've learned from what you're forgiving. Because when you rewrite the story, you reclaim your identity. You go from victim to author, from passenger to pilot, from echo to voice. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to become someone who surprises even you. So let go of the identity that's tethered to old wounds. Let go of the loyalty to a past that no longer fits the person you're becoming. Stop saying, I've always been this way. And start asking, who do I want to be now? Because the moment you ask that, you begin to create space for a new version of you to emerge. One not rooted in pain, but in possibility. Here's a truth that no one tells you. Most people don't fear the past. They fear what it says about their future. They believe that if they've always been insecure, they'll never be confident. If they've always been anxious, they'll never be calm. If they've always been broken, They'll never be whole, but you are not stuck. You are becoming, and the act of becoming requires one radical step: forgiveness. Not the kind you perform for others, not the kind that forgets, but the kind that sets you free. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know. Forgive yourself for the time it took to learn. Forgive yourself for the damage done in survival mode. And in that forgiveness, you'll find something profound, not just relief, not just peace, but power. The power to choose differently, the power to love yourself completely, including the parts of you still healing, because the journey back to self is not about erasing the past. It's about integrating it. It's about saying, yes, that happened, but it's not all that I am. It's a chapter, not the whole book. So turn the page, start writing a new one, not from fear, not from memory, but from vision, because when you start telling a new story, the world begins to respond to it. You're not who you were 5 years ago, not even 5 months ago. You're growing every day, even when it feels invisible. So today, take one step. Release the story that keeps you small and step into the one that's always been waiting for you to believe it. You are not your past. You are the light that made it through the darkness. You are the soul that refused to stay silent. You are the future unfolding in real time. And that story is just beginning. There's a moment in every healing journey when you realize something shocking, something simple, something obvious, something earth-shattering. You've never truly had your own back. You've shown up for others. You've stayed up late for friends. You've carried heartbreaks that weren't yours. You've given second chances to people who never even asked for the first. But when it came to you, your dreams, your voice, your boundaries, your heart, you were the first to walk away. And the deepest wound, it's not the one left by others, it's the one left by you. Every time you ignored your own voice to be loved by someone else, every time you dimmed your light so someone wouldn't feel overshadowed, every time you silenced your truth just to keep the peace, that wasn't peace. That was abandonment of yourself. And if you felt lost for a long time, maybe it's not because you took the wrong path. Maybe it's because you left you behind. So now we ask, what would it mean to become the friend you've always needed, to show up for yourself with the same compassion you've shown everyone else? What would change if you stopped criticizing your reflection and started complimenting your resilience? What would shift if you replace judgment with curiosity? When you make a mistake, when you feel afraid, when you fall behind, because real healing doesn't come from perfection, it comes from presence. Be there for you, not when everything's okay, but especially when it's not. When the anxiety hits like a tidal wave, be the steady voice that says, breathe, I've got you. When you mess up, be the gentle hand that says, it's okay, we'll try again. When the world walks away, be the one who stays, not out of obligation, but out of love. Radical, unconditional, daily love. No one teaches us this. We're taught to succeed, to compete, to earn love like a paycheck, and perform for belonging. But we're not taught how to belong to ourselves, to sit with our loneliness, to hold our sadness like a child, to celebrate our wins, even the small ones, without waiting for applause. But now you know, now you see it, and now it's time to practice it. It starts small. You stop calling yourself names when you fail. You start eating when you're hungry, sleeping when you're tired, resting without guilt. You set boundaries not to push people away, but to keep yourself safe. You say no when you mean no. You say yes when it sets your soul on fire. You begin to treat your heart like a home, not a battlefield. And over time, the voice in your head shifts. It stops echoing old pain. It starts repeating new truths. I'm proud of you. You did your best today. I forgive you. You are enough. This voice, it isn't narcissism. It isn't ego. It's self-parenting. It's reparenting. It's giving to yourself what the world failed to offer when you needed it most. And slowly you realize the love you were chasing was never out there. It was here in your chest, in your breath, in your reflection. You don't need to earn love. You are made of it. You were born into it. You are stitched together by it. And it's not selfish to give it to yourself first. It's survival. It's strength. It's sovereignty. Imagine walking through your life with your own hand in yours, not waiting for someone to save you, not begging for someone to choose you, but showing up every day and saying, I've already been chosen by me. Because that kind of self-commitment, it changes your posture, it changes your presence, it changes the way the world responds to you. You stop tolerating half-love. You stop shrinking to fit in. You stop apologizing for simply existing. You become whole, not because someone else completed you, but because you finally stop breaking yourself to make others feel complete. And the most beautiful part, when you love yourself that way, others feel it. You teach the world how to treat you by how you treat yourself. You teach your future partner, your friends, your family, your colleagues, that you are a sacred space, not a dumping ground, that your joy is not up for debate, that your peace is not a luxury, it's a priority. And those who can't respect that, they naturally fade away, not because you're unkind, but because you're finally kind to yourself. This is what it means to come home, to return to the one person you can never leave, you to become the friend who holds your hand through storms, the mentor who reminds you what you're capable of, the parent who says, I love you even on your worst days. You are not too broken. You are not too far gone. You are not too late. You are here. And that is enough. So today, begin again with grace, with presence, with the same love you've always poured into others. Pour it into you. There's a pain we carry that doesn't show up in medical charts, a wound no x-ray can detect, a heartbreak no therapist may fully understand because it didn't come from others, it came from within. This kind of pain is the betrayal of self. And the cruelest part, we become our own harshest judge, jury, and executioner, punishing ourselves not once, but over and over for things we didn't even know we were guilty of. The times we silenced our own voice, the times we chose fear over courage, the moments we abandoned ourselves in pursuit of someone else's approval. Forgiveness, real, raw, courageous forgiveness isn't always about others. It begins by facing the person in the mirror and saying, I forgive you for not knowing better. I forgive you for being human. I forgive you for the years you spent surviving, not thriving. I forgive you for believing you were unworthy of love. Let that land. We are taught to say sorry to others. But when was the last time you said sorry to yourself? The mirror never lies, but it also doesn't speak. You have to be the one to initiate the dialogue. For years, We look outward. We try to fix, achieve, prove, impress. But what if your healing has nothing to do with adding more and everything to do with letting go of the guilt you've been dragging like chains, letting go of the shame that whispers, you're not enough, letting go of the expectations that were never truly yours. We are not born with these weights. We inherit them, absorb them, wear them, and then forget we have the power to put them down. In ancient Japanese art, there's a practice called kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, they're highlighted, honored, because in that place, the fracture, something sacred happened. You are no different. Your pain is not your disqualification. It's your certification, proof that you lived, you broke, you bled, and you chose to rebuild, but this time, better. This time, bolder. This time, beautifully imperfect. Some of us are afraid to heal because healing would mean letting go of the identity we become attached to, the victim, the struggler, the silent one in the back row. But healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering without bleeding. It's reclaiming your power from the hands of your past. You are not the things you've done. You are not the mistakes you've made. You are not your failures, rejections, heartbreaks, or traumas. You are the person who survived all of it. When you realize that, something shifts. A new voice begins to emerge, softer, gentler, wiser. It's the voice that was drowned out for years by fear and noise. The voice that whispers, you're doing better than you think. You didn't deserve that. You're allowed to rest now. Listen, forgiving yourself doesn't mean you excuse the past. It means you're no longer willing to carry its weight into your future. Think of your life as a garden. You don't plant new seeds in soil filled with toxins. You clear the debris. You remove the rot. You create space for life to grow. Self-forgiveness is that clearing. It is not passive. It is not easy. It is active, gritty, and brave because it demands you face the truth. Not the story you've been telling yourself, but the truth, the one that says, you were never broken. You were never too far gone. You were just waiting for yourself to come back. So here's what you do. Find a mirror. Stand in front of it, not as a critic, but as a witness. Look into your eyes, not your hair, your weight, your skin, your eyes. Say your name. And then say, I'm sorry for abandoning you. I forgive you. And I'm not leaving you again. Say it until it no longer feels awkward. Say it until the tears come and let them. Say it until something inside you unclenches. This is not self-help. This is self-rescue. And here's the most powerful part. When you learn to forgive yourself, you stop needing the world to constantly validate you. You stop chasing love in the wrong places. You stop apologizing for your existence. Because suddenly, you remember who you are. You were never too much. You were never not enough. You were just trying to find your way through the fog. Now the fog is lifting because self-love begins where self-forgiveness lives. And from here forward, from this moment on, you walk differently. You speak differently. You show up not as someone trying to prove something, but as someone who has nothing left to hide. You are free. There's a silent belief that haunts so many of us, like a shadow behind every accomplishment, every smile, every act of kindness. A belief we never speak out loud, but it shows up in how we live. That belief is, I must earn love. Earn it with perfection. Earn it by being useful. Earn it by being less emotional, more agreeable, more successful, more whatever they needed me to be. We grow up thinking love is a reward handed out only when we're good, silent, productive, beautiful, or pleasing. So we hustle for it. We people please for it. We abandon ourselves for it. And one day we wake up surrounded by relationships, likes, achievements, and still feel empty still feel unseen. Because here's the truth. Love that you have to earn is not love. It's a transaction. And you, my friend, were never meant to live your life like a constant business deal, negotiating your worth in every room you walk into. You don't have to perform to be loved. You don't have to be perfect to be accepted. You don't have to hustle to be enough. You already are. But this is where it gets hard. Because when someone finally comes along who sees you, really sees you, not the polished version, not the filtered face, but the messy, bruised, honest you, what do? You flinch, you pull back, you wonder, why would they want me? You question their motives, you sabotage the connection, because deep down, there's still that belief echoing, I don't deserve this. But that voice is lying. You do, because worthiness was never something you had to earn. It was your birthright. You were born with it, just like breath, just like light, just like soul. There's a reason so many people are more comfortable giving love than receiving it. Giving love makes us feel in control. Receiving love, that's vulnerable. That requires surrender. It means letting the walls down. It means letting someone touch the parts of us we've tried so hard to hide. It means believing even for a moment that maybe, just maybe, we're lovable as is. And that's terrifying. But it's also freedom, because the moment you allow yourself to receive without shame, without resistance, is the moment healing begins. Imagine a life where you stop chasing love and start welcoming it. Imagine relationships where you don't perform, you just are. Imagine waking up and knowing, I am enough even when I do nothing at all. That is the kind of love you deserve. And that is the kind of love you must first give to yourself. So how do we get there? We start by recognizing the moments we reject love without realizing it. When someone compliments us and we downplay it, when someone offers help and we say, I've got it, when someone says, I care about you, and we silently wonder, what's the catch? We're not pushing them away. We're pushing away the parts of ourselves we haven't yet learned to love. So here's a radical idea. The next time love knocks, open the door, even if your hands are shaking, even if your heart says, I'm not ready. Because sometimes the only way to learn to receive is to practice receiving. Let someone hold space for you. Let someone speak life into you. Let someone remind you of your beauty when you forget it. And then do the same for yourself. Stand in front of a mirror and say, I am worthy of love right now, not later. Say it even if you don't believe it. Say it until it becomes your truth. Because the greatest revolution is not changing who you are, it's finally loving who you've always been. There's a story about a sculptor who was asked how he created such beautiful statues. He said, I don't create them, I just remove the stone that doesn't belong. That's what this journey is. Not becoming someone new, but removing everything that is not truly you, the shame, the fear, the guilt, the self-doubt, so your soul can breathe again, so your worth can shine through again. You were never broken. You were buried. Now you're unearthing yourself one truth at a time. And here's another truth. You don't need everyone to love you. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. The only person who needs to see your value is you, because once you do, the game changes. You stop settling, you stop shrinking, you stop living for scraps. And instead, you rise. You demand better. You attract relationships that reflect your healing, not your wounds. This is how you change your life, not by chasing more love, but by becoming the kind of person who believes they're already loved. You want love? Then stop running from your reflection. Stop waiting to fix yourself before you accept yourself. Stop measuring your worth by how productive or pleasing you are. You were enough when you were crying at 3 a.m. You were enough when you made mistakes you swore you'd never make. You were enough when you had nothing but breath in your lungs. And you're still enough now. So pause, take that in, Let it wash over the parts of you that still ache. You don't have to keep proving. You just have to start allowing, because the greatest act of self-love is simply letting yourself be loved as you are. What if the person you need to forgive the most is you? Not just for the things you did, but for the things you didn't know, for the ways you abandoned yourself because you were trying to survive, for the versions of yourself you had to become just to feel safe. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the ultimate act of strength. Because when you forgive yourself, you stop fighting your own shadow. You stop waging war against your own heart. You start coming home. But here's the part most people miss. Forgiveness doesn't mean saying it's okay. It means saying, I understand. I understand why you were scared. I understand why you shut down. I understand why you pushed people away or clung too tightly or said things you didn't mean. I understand why you built walls and wore masks and pretended to be someone else. You were protecting yourself. And now you're ready to live without the armor. Because the truth is, your past isn't meant to be a prison, it's meant to be a teacher. Too often, we replay our lowest moments like broken records, convinced that if we punish ourselves enough, we'll be redeemed. But guilt doesn't create growth. Shame doesn't birth self-love. Only compassion does that. Only grace does that. Only truth does that. And the truth is, you did the best you could with what you had. That version of you, the one you judged so harshly, got you here to this moment, to this awakening. So maybe they weren't the villain. Maybe they were the warrior. Tired, messy, confused, but still fighting. And now you get to lay down the sword. You get to say, I release myself. I am no longer defined by my worst day. I am worthy of peace, not punishment. This is how we begin to trust ourselves again. By realizing that we're not broken, just buried beneath layers of pain. We didn't ask for layers of trauma, rejection, generational wounds, expectations that were never ours to carry. You don't have to carry them anymore. You can set them down gently, slowly, one by one, until all that's left is you, unfiltered, untamed, unapologetic. And here's what happens next. You begin to recognize your reflection again, not the distorted version, but the one who was always beneath the noise, the one who dreamed, the one who believed, the one who knew they were meant for more. You start making choices not from fear, but from love. You start showing up not to impress, but to express. You start honoring yourself not as a project to fix, but as a person to cherish. This is the journey back to self. And it's not linear. It's not perfect, but it's yours. Every step, every scar, every moment of awakening, you are allowed to forgive yourself for being human. You are allowed to reclaim the years you lost to self-doubt. You are allowed to rebuild slowly, boldly, intentionally from a place of truth. And as you do, something extraordinary happens. You begin to live again, not for them, not for status, but for you. You rise with your own breath. You walk in your own rhythm. And finally, you belong to yourself. Are you ready to come home? You were never lost. You were always here, underneath the noise, underneath the roles, underneath the silence. You were waiting, and now you're not waiting anymore. When you learn to love yourself, truly, something shifts. The world stops feeling like a battlefield. The mirror stops feeling like a courtroom. And life for the first time starts to feel like yours. No more pretending. No more performing. No more negotiating your worth in places that were never meant to hold it. You begin to speak softer to yourself. You begin to sit in your own company and not flinch. You begin to enjoy your own presence, not as a fallback, but as a privilege, that's what real self-love looks like. Not loud, not flashy, not a social media quote, but quiet moments where you look at yourself and say, I choose you, even now, especially now. And what about the world? What about the people who still expect you to be who you were? You let them go. Because the people who love you will meet you at your growth, not your comfort zone. They'll rise with you, or they'll reveal themselves. Either way, you're no longer shrinking to fit into frames you've outgrown. This is your return to your voice, to your truth, to your wholeness. You are not perfect. You are whole. And that's more than enough. So let this be the truth you carry forward. You don't have to wait for the world to love you first. You don't have to wait for the past to make sense. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment, the perfect weight, the perfect partner, the perfect peace. You are allowed to live now, to laugh now, to love now, to rest now, to be proud now. Because this is it. This moment, this breath, this version of you, you fought for them, you chose them, and they are not broken. They are becoming. So wake up tomorrow, not with dread, but with devotion, not with fear, but with freedom. Because the journey back to self is not just about healing. It's about celebration. You made it. Through the pain, through the silence, through the forgetting. And now you remember you are love. You are light. You are home. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because this isn't the end. It's only the beginning of 1,000 more awakenings. You are not alone. And you never were. Welcome back.